If one day you woke up and discovered that all humans in the world had vanished, leaving only you, how long could you survive? On the first day, you called every number you could think of, but no one answered. You rushed outside and found the streets completely empty. Cars were left in the middle of the road, but people had disappeared without a trace. At that moment, a deafening roar came from above. A passenger plane, now without a pilot, lost control and crashed into a building. Flames lit up half the sky. Around the world, 40,000 planes still in flight began falling like rain. That day, the world descended into chaos. Chemical plants exploded. Oil tanks caught fire. Thick smoke engulfed entire cities. You witnessed civilization collapse in an instant. But after the fear came a sudden thought. You ran into a car dealership and drove away in a sports car. You headed to the most luxurious hotel in your city and checked into the finest room. At that moment, it felt like the whole world belonged to you. You stood by the window. Firelight flickered across the glass. You didn't sleep that night. A week later, power plants shut down. The city fell into complete darkness. The hotel lost electricity. Your phone stopped working. Panic began to set in. A month later, an even greater disaster struck. More than 400 nuclear power plants around the world, left unattended, spiraled out of control. Reactors overheated and triggered chain explosions. Mushroom clouds rose into the sky. Radiation spread across the globe through atmospheric circulation. The sky turned a strange grayish yellow. Soon after, the climate deteriorated rapidly. Winter arrived. Temperatures plummeted. Blizzards raged for weeks. Fortunately, you found a hidden shelter. Inside, you survived on instant noodles and soda. 3 months later, the blizzards finally stopped. You emerged to see a new world. Everything buried under thick snow. The once bustling streets were now silent and desolate. You had to leave the city and search for a safer place. 6 months later, a strange meteor shower filled the sky. But those were not meteors. They were satellites falling out of orbit. Thousands of them streaked across the night sky. Beautiful, yet terrifying. You realized then. The age of space had come to an end. Human civilization had disappeared into history. You settled on a farm in the countryside. You learned how to grow crops, hunt, and purify water. You kept a small animal for company. Every day, you talked to it. Just to make sure you wouldn't forget how to speak. 1 year later, you set out to search for other survivors. After months of searching, you found nothing. But in an abandoned house, you discovered a diary. It belonged to another survivor. The entries stopped at day 60. And then, nothing. 5 years later, nature began reclaiming the cities. Weeds covered the streets. Vines climbed skyscrapers. Wild animals nested inside shopping malls. Nature was taking back its world at an astonishing speed. And you were only a temporary guest. 20 years later, humanity's landmarks began to collapse. The Eiffel Tower, left without maintenance, fell during a storm. The Golden Gate Bridge rusted through and plunged into the sea. Once great monuments were now nothing but ruins. 50 years later, the oceans flourished again. Fish populations exploded. The songs of whales echoed through the deep sea once more. Without pollution or hunting, the earth was healing itself. But the cost was the complete disappearance of human civilization. You were now old, your hair white. You lived alone in a small cabin by the sea. You recorded your life over the years and wrote it all into a book. Its title, The Last Human.